Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we had the grand final of the Airthings Masters between Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen. Now for those of you who don't know how it works, the players play a 4-game match with a time control of actually both players having 50 minutes plus a 3-second increment. But after they had 4 draws, they had to play an Armageddon, and for the Armageddon both players have to submit a bid. White gets 15 minutes and whoever bids lower gets their designated time. And Hikaru bid 8 minutes and 59 seconds, and Magnus, he beat 8 minutes and 58 seconds. So he beat Hikaru by 1 second, but he gets the black pieces, and he gets quite a significant time disadvantage. He's down 6 minutes on the clock. So let's have a look. So Hikaru, in the regular games, he started the games off with the move e4, but in this Armageddon, he wants to keep the position as complicated and as ambiguous as possible. So he plays the move knight f3, knight f6, and goes g3, going for a ready opening. This can also turn into a bit of a reverse King's Indian. So Magnus goes c5, knight c, bishop g2, knight c6, castles, and d5. And this was already a critical moment. Hikaru here could have played the move d4, transposing into a reverse Grunfeld with an extra tempo. This is White's best bet for an advantage, but I'm sure that Magnus had some preparation here. Hikaru probably thought the same. So he thought, let's play d3 and play a reverse King's Indian. Let's keep all the pieces on the board and try to make use of my time advantage. Again, look at this. 5.5 minutes and even a little bit more. So e5, e4. Now here, maybe, I was a little bit surprised. I thought, it would make sense for Magnus, given the match situation, to play something like this. Trade everything down, go bishop g4. Again, he only needs to draw. But he plays the move d4, and now Hikaru kind of gets what he wants. He's up a lot of time. The position has, a lot of pieces on the clock and a lot of play left. So bishop e7, knight e3, bishop e6, knight g5, hitting the bishop and making way for the f-pawn. So Magnus goes bishop g4 and bishop h5, which might look a little bit odd, but you're pinning this f-pawn and you're making it very difficult for White to get in the move f4. So Hikaru goes knight c4, knight d7, hitting the knight, and knight h3. And Magnus goes f6 so that his bishop can slide back here. Knight f2, castles, and here h4 by Hikaru, gaining a bit of space on the board, and he wants to go bishop h3, activate this bishop again. So Magnus goes here, bishop h3. Now, you can take here, but this is generally not a good decision because White takes. White gets all of the light squares, and actually your knight also gets a pretty nice square on d3. So knight b6, and Hikaru plays b3 again. He wants to keep the position closed. And I thought up to this point, Hikaru was doing pretty well. Again, his time advantage has only increased. He's up 6.5 minutes, whereas he started out with 6. So not a good time for Magnus, but 7 minutes still is quite a bit of time. He plays bishop d6, and with this move, he is trying to discourage White from playing the move f4. If Black goes queen c7, it becomes very difficult to see what White is going to do. So Hikaru played f4. Now we saw a trade, and queen c7, a clever little move by Magnus attacking the pawn. And the idea is that if White plays the move queen f3 to defend, here Black plays the move knight b4. And this pawn is under attack, this pawn is under attack, and White cannot defend. Like queen e2 hangs this, so White's in a bit of trouble. Now Hikaru here had the opportunity to go e5, takes an f5, but to be fair, I do understand his decision not to, because this really defines the position more. And, if this doesn't work out, you've just given up a pawn, and Magnus' moves become a little bit clearer. So I like the move that he played. He played knight h1, putting the knight in the corner, but the knight can come back here. King h8, knight g3, g6. But the one thing I didn't like was that here he started to spend a lot of time. He went queen f3, he spent like half a minute, as you guys can see. Rook a8, and here again he started to drift. Like king h1 is a fine move, bishop d2 as well. Maybe something like h5, but he had to try to keep up the pace, try to keep the time advantage, try to keep the position as complicated as possible. But yeah, king h8, he spent almost 2 minutes, and after bishop e6, offering the bishop trade, I thought bishop takes e6 was the only move. So a little bit of a pity for Hikaru that he spent so much time here, where, he played this move after 2.5 minutes. So now Magnus is starting to feel a lot more comfortable. The position is equal, he's only down a minute on the clock, and his moves become easier. He plays the move f5, trying to chip away at White's pawn structure, and perhaps here Hikaru had to play the move h5. Try to keep it as unclear as possible. Your knight jumps in, you're trying to chip away here. Very difficult to say what's going on, but Black is doing pretty fine. But Hikaru played the move e5, bishop e7, and h5, trying to chip away Black's kingside pawn structure. Magnus took here, so that, his rook can potentially slide over here, maybe here. Hikaru went rook to g1, or rook g6 by Magnus, and here Hikaru made a big mistake. I think had he played the move knight takes h5, there's really everything to play for. I mean, black might have a move like this, but you can always go rook g2 to h2 to neutralize that pressure along the h-file. And I like white's chances. White is still up quite a bit of time, as you guys can see. 1.5 minutes. The position is very unclear. But Hikaru played the move queen takes h5, which was a big, big mistake. Here Magnus had the opportunity to play the amazing knight takes e5. Now, the idea is that if white takes, you get a check here. And if the king steps up, black goes f4. Shutting down the bishop, hitting the knight, and threatening rook h6. And that would have been the end of the game. So I don't know what Hikaru would have done after knight takes c5. I don't really see a good way for white to keep the game going. And remember, white has to win this game. So any repetition is just horrible. But the move Magnus played was also good. He played knight b4. So he's attacking this and he's vacating the c6 square for his queen. So if you take the knight, then black gives a check here. And king h2, then rook h6, you lose the queen. And you have absolutely zero winning chances. I mean, as a matter of fact, you even lose more material because you also end up losing the knight. So you cannot do this. And the problem is, after knight b4, if white does this, which at first sight looks good, you take away the h6 square, black can give a check here, you go king h2, but black now has rook takes f5, queen takes, and rook h6 check. Your king has to go up, and here black gives a check again. And what are you going to do? If you go king h3, you walk into a checkmate over here. If you go king f2, you walk into a checkmate over here, so you don't want to do that. And, well, the only move you have is king h2, but again, Magnus only needs a repetition. So Hikaru realized that he couldn't go into that variation, and so he played queen f3, withdrawing the queen. All right, now knight takes c2, but Magnus is now up a clear pawn, and again, he's down less than a minute on the clock, so things are looking better and better. Rook ab1, Hikaru tried to fight on, the knight jumps back, rook g2, queen c6, clever decision by Magnus, simplifying the position. Trade, knight e2, Magnus takes another pawn, but here comes Hikaru's rook. So, again, he's still got that edge on the clock, but can he flag Magnus? Probably unlikely. Rook e8, knight c1, Hikaru trading off the knights, but again, the more the position simplifies, the better for Magnus a6. Maybe here Hikaru had to trade first, and then king g2, but it feels like black should never lose this position, but who knows. Hikaru went here, a5, bishop d2, d3, and now he decided to trade and bring his king up the board. Magnus played king to g7. Now he's down like 1 minute and 15 seconds, but 2 minutes is still a lot of time to make a lot of moves. Rook takes c6, and Magnus instantly played the best move, rook d8. A very good move. He wants to go rook d4, take here, and I don't see what Hikaru can do to create any winning chances whatsoever. He played king f3, rook to d4, rook a6, but here goes the c pawn, and rook to c2. And look at these pawns. They're going to become a big problem for white. Bishop e3, c4, rook a7, king f8. Now, maybe here Hikaru should have played something like e6, with the idea that if black just pushes, you have rook a8, king g7, and bishop d4 check. If the king goes here, you have a checkmate. And if you block with the bishop, then rook a7, and you pick up the bishop over here. I mean, I don't think this would have caused real trouble, but you never know. It creates some chances. But Magnus can really move his bishop anywhere, like here, for example, and he should be completely fine. But Hikaru pushed this pawn. Now Magnus went behind. And here, I mean, maybe Hikaru had to do something like this. Pick up the c pawn, but it feels like you're never going to win this. The best thing you can get is a draw. So he played a6, but c3. Now Magnus was winning. Rook d7. And he could have just pushed the pawn here. d2, because a7 runs into the amazing rook takes a7. If you take with the rook, black queens right away. And if you take with the bishop, then c2. And these two passers are going to guarantee black a queen. But Magnus took a very controlled decision. Rook to c6, putting the rook behind the passed pawn, always good. He brought his king up to e6. And now he played a very clever g5, simplifying the position even more. Hikaru takes. But we get into this rook endgame where Magnus is up 10 seconds. There's nothing white can ever do. You go rook e4, pick up this pawn. I don't think Hikaru had a real chance of flagging Magnus here. Should always be very easy to make 50 moves. So Magnus wins the grand final against Hikaru Nakamura. Hikaru will have a chance to come back. He is going to play in the loser's bracket against, let me see, he is going to play Wesley So. Or is he going to play Arjun? I don't know. It's too confusing. He's going to play Wesley So or Arjun. So there's still a chance for Hikaru to come back to meet Magnus in the final. Anyway, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the next video.